Over the past decade, we found ourselves stuck in a number of epidemics. From our darker struggles with COVID-19, social media, addiction, and the like, to the lighter trends, like to the rise of internet memes, to spiked seltzer flavors, and even, yes, to goat yoga. We've been through a lot recently. As some of you probably know, we're also in the middle of a self-help epidemic. Go online or to your local bookstore's self-help aisle, and you'll probably find yourself confronted with a few messages like these. And while I think there are certain pitfalls to some of that, I am here today to defend what I've taken away from my experience with self-help. Broadly speaking, that is this. The world that each one of us lives in is constantly changing. As these changes happen, we are consistently presented with opportunities to decline, to stagnate, or to improve our lives. Now, before I dive into that, I just want to prompt you to ask yourself this. Am I living at my best? When I think about that question, my mind latches onto a memory I made when I was a sophomore in high school. Specifically, I remember one Saturday during that year, I was sitting down on the couch when I got a text from a good, longtime childhood friend of mine. Now, my friend was asking me to hang out with him later that day, and though he was a nice guy with only good intentions, he made it clear in his text that he was only inviting me to hang out with him, not my twin brother as well. Growing up, though, I would rarely ever even think to put myself into any social situation without my twin brother standing right there, planted by my side. So I sat there on the couch, reading my friend's text nervously to myself over and over again, my heart literally skipping beats. And then finally I responded. I said, "I don't feel well. Let's hang out some other time." That was my social life in a nutshell. Now the problem was that it took me until my twin brother walked out the door for college. He left for his college about a week before I left for mine. For me to realize that I had just spent 1/5 of my total life totally ignoring most of the seemingly risky, yet positive, worthwhile opportunities that I had been presented with thus far. So ever since, I've devoted myself to opening my mind to risk. Okay, let's back up a bit. Research shows that we are often at our best when we are challenged. Challenged enough so that we must be our best, most present selves to perform well. That idea, sometimes referred to as flow or flow state, is brought to us by a Hungarian-American psychologist by the name of this. And to give him credit, I can say his first name, Mihaly, but whenever I try to say that last name, that just happens inside my brain. So I'm not going to try to sound that out right now. But meanwhile, I think this all goes to show that stress and the opportunities that bring us stress can often be good things. But diving deeper, I think this also tells us that discomfort and a little bit of risk-taking are both vital ingredients in the recipe we all may call living my best life. So, how do we notice risks? And what are the worthwhile, the necessary risks in our lives? Well, I believe we can literally train the mind to open up to risky opportunity. And I think we can do this by forcing ourselves into supposedly unnecessary, uncomfortable situations. For instance, you could go home tonight and take a freezing shower. You could go without your phone for a day tomorrow. Or you could go challenge a social norm and lie out in the middle of a sidewalk in public for 30 seconds as people make awkward eye contact with you and have to walk around you. Now that's an interesting one, more on that later, but you could also get an accidental buzz cut, true story, don't do that. Or you could sit down and read a math textbook, but I certainly don't recommend that either. Either way, find something you can consistently do to make yourself a little uncomfortable in your day-to-day life. And feel free to copy me in your quest to warm up to risky opportunity. One thing I did before the COVID pandemic was, yes, in fact, go out in the middle of a sidewalk and just lie there for 30 seconds as people had to stare at me awkwardly as they walked around me. And if you don't believe me, well, here's proof. So there's actually a boy who's laughing at me in that first picture as he turns around to one of his friends. I think doing this probably certifies me as a pretty weird person, so feel free to laugh along with him. But I should say that I did not do this much throughout the COVID pandemic for obvious public health reasons. So over the past year, I've gotten creative in my own home, and I forced myself to primarily take cold showers. And I would show you proof of that, of me taking a shower, but I don't think a picture like that would fly in an event like this. So you're just gonna have to believe me with that picture. But I just wanna highlight that I've done these two things to help break down my natural and our literally human biological tendency to live life comfortably. This is so that when life presents me a necessary challenge, like the opportunity to give a TEDx talk, I won't pass up that challenge easily. And that way, taking cold showers could be your way of training your mind to spot and then to be open to some of the stressful yet life-improving opportunities in your life. Either way, I believe we can literally train the mind and open it up to an optimal amount of risk-taking and discomfort for the better. So here's how all this training has helped me over the last year or so. And while I first must start by saying that I love some good, safe daily routine. For instance, I have to have some alone time every day, and I absolutely have to have ice cream for dessert almost every weeknight to be able to put myself to bed. Thanks for that healthy habit, Dad. I like to think that I thrive when taking some of the more big picture risks that life has thrown my way. For instance, a year ago, after I graduated college, I moved to a new city where I didn't know anyone my age. Now that transition has been very hard, especially at first, but it's also been truly rewarding for me to start fresh and to build a new social circle from scratch. Next, the first job I chose out of college was a sales job. It required me to call into business executives, often well over twice my age, and to try to get them to rethink the ways that they were running their businesses at the time. Now, just the thought of that was never super comforting to me. It didn't help that most of these calls that we had to make were cold calls. They were unscheduled and unexpected. In fact, here is one of the more common reactions I would get when I would make these calls. Yeah, that's me getting hung up on. But like I said, that wasn't super comforting making those calls. It also wasn't comfortable getting rejected or just getting hung up on, but that was just part of the day-to-day. Anyway, I soon felt stagnant, and I grew unhappy in that job. So after 6 months, I quit. I bounced out of the secure, stable, resume-boosting, salary-paying, Zoom Premium using corporate world that I had worked very hard for in the middle of the COVID pandemic. Yeah, my parents were not pleased. But despite that risk, I couldn't be happier with that decision. I've been working as a coach of my favorite sport ever since, and I've truly loved that experience. But diving deeper, and most importantly, the thought of even taking risks like those, back when I was a sophomore in high school, or back before me and my twin brother ended up at separate colleges, never even crossed my mind back then. Either way, like I said, I believe we can train the mind and open it up to an optimal amount of risk-taking and discomfort. So to end, here's my final point. And listen up, because I think this is super important. I wish I would have heard this back when I was in high school. The first step towards improving yourself is to love your current self. Do whatever it takes to fully find peace with your current self and your current situation right now. Seek counseling or go home and say, I love you to yourself in the mirror over and over again until you really do, if that's what it takes. And then remember, don't improve yourself because you don't like where you are in life right now. Rather, improve yourself because you are worth the effort. Improve yourself because you are worth the stage fright, the blushes, the awkward silences, the stuttering, the shakiness, the sweating. Improve yourself because the sky is, in fact, the limit for you. In time, and if you do, might you not only open your mind towards more necessary risk in your life, you might also become braver and more at peace with yourself than ever. As Eleanor Roosevelt famously said, do one thing every day that scares you. Even if I may add, if it's for just 30 seconds. Thank you.